You know, in our digital world, there's a weapon that's emerged that doesn't leave a physical scar, but it inflicts this devastating, lasting wound. It's called image-based sexual abuse, and it's a really modern kind of violation with profound consequences. So in this explainer, we're going to deconstruct what it is, the deep impact it has on survivors, and what's finally being done to fight back. All right, here's our game plan. We're going to start with a raw, personal plea for help, just to understand the human cost. Then, we'll dive into the severe psychological trauma victims have to endure. After that, we'll untangle the really complex legal maze they face, see how laws are changing around the world, and finally, we'll cover the powerful tools that are helping people take back control. You know, to really get this issue, we can't just start with a bunch of statistics or legal jargon. We have to start with the real, gut-wrenching experience of someone trying to find help, only to slam right into a brick wall. It all starts with this simple, direct request on a legal advice forum. A person finds out their ex has recorded intimate videos of them and has actually confessed they plan to distribute them as revenge. I mean, they're terrified and they're trying to do the right thing, right? Use the legal system to protect themselves and another potential victim. And this is the response they get. Just a cold, legalistic shutdown. This one exchange perfectly captures the core of the problem, this massive gap between the very real harm and terror a victim feels and the law's historical inability to see it as a crime until it's already too late. So, what are we really talking about here? Well, the term that experts prefer is image-based sexual abuse, or IBSA for short. And this is so much broader than just revenge porn. It covers any non-consensual creation or sharing of intimate images. We're talking threats, financial extortion, and the terrifying new frontier of AI-generated deepfakes. And make no mistake, that person on Reddit is far from alone. A recent multinational survey found that nearly 1 in 4 adults has experienced some form of IBSA. Think about that. This isn't some niche problem. It's a global epidemic that's been hiding in plain sight. But, you know, that legal frustration, that's only part of the story. For the millions of people affected, the real weight of this abuse is the psychological wreckage it leaves behind. This is so much more than just an embarrassing photo getting out. The psychological toll is just staggering. Studies show that between 80 and 93% of victims suffer really significant emotional distress. Researchers have actually found the trauma is comparable to that of physical sexual assault. Survivors experience PTSD-like symptoms, chronic fear, depression, a complete loss of their sense of safety. And this is the unseen wound, the trauma that's just as real as any physical assault, that our legal systems have struggled for so long to understand. This quote from survivor Anna Marie Chiarini, it just makes that paranoia so tangible. Can you imagine living with that constant, gnawing fear? See, the abuse doesn't just happen once when the image is posted. It becomes this persistent, haunting presence, like a digital ghost that follows you absolutely everywhere. And this is exactly why the language we use here is so critical. The term revenge porn is just not great. It implies two things. First, that the motive is always revenge, which it often isn't. And second, that the victim somehow provoked it. Calling it image-based sexual abuse correctly places the focus right where it belongs, on the violation of consent. It's a form of sexual violence, period. Okay, so that brings us to a really critical question. If the harm is so clear, why has it been so incredibly difficult for the law to catch up? Why did that Reddit user get such a dismissive answer? Well, the answer lies in the complexities of the legal system itself. So victims have basically had two paths, criminal and civil. In a criminal case, it's the state that prosecutes to punish the offender, but the burden of proof is incredibly high. For a civil case, the victim has to sue for monetary damages. Now, this can be an effective path, but it means the victim has to fund the lawsuit themselves and endure even more public exposure, which, as you can imagine, is a huge barrier for most people. But here is the good news. After years and years of tireless work by survivors and advocates, there has been a monumental shift. As of May 2025, every single state in the U.S. now has a specific criminal law targeting IBSA. This is a huge step forward in closing that gap between harm and justice. And you know what? This legislative momentum isn't just happening in the United States. We're seeing a global consensus emerge that this kind of abuse requires specific, targeted laws to really combat it effectively. Just look at this timeline. Japan was on this way back in 2014. The UK followed in 2015. More recently, the US has created federal protections that allow victims to sue for damages, and with the Take It Down Act, has finally started to tackle the new threat of AI deepfakes. The world is adapting. So the laws are catching up, which is fantastic, but what can victims do right now to protect themselves? This brings us to our final section, the incredible tools and resources that are empowering people to fight back and regain a sense of control. Okay, one of the most powerful tools out there is stopncii.org. It uses some really clever technology. Here's how it works. A victim can take a private image on their own phone or computer, and this tool creates a unique digital fingerprint of it, called a hash. And here's the key part. The image itself never, ever leaves their device. That hash is then shared with platforms like Facebook and Instagram, who can use it to block that exact image from ever being uploaded. It's basically a proactive shield. If this ever happens to you or someone you know, there are clear steps you can take. First, document everything. Screenshots, URLs, usernames, this evidence is crucial. Second, report it to the police. Remember, this is a crime. Third, use the platform's own reporting tools to get the content removed. And finally, and this is the most important part, reach out to expert organizations for support. They provide free, confidential advice, they help you navigate the whole reporting process, and they offer crucial emotional support. You absolutely do not have to go through this alone. And all of this leaves us with a critical question for the future. We've seen laws and tools evolve to fight the abuse that we know, but as generative AI makes creating fake, yet perfectly realistic intimate images easier than ever, well, that's a challenge on a whole new scale. So how do we build a world where our laws, our technology, and our ethics can move fast enough to protect our fundamental right to digital dignity?